Hello and welcome back to Grave Chroniclers. Tonight we travel to Henan Province, China, to a dam that was supposed to be a miracle, and the night it became the deadliest structural failure in human history. A disaster that killed more people than almost any single event you have never heard of, because the government that built it made sure, for 30 years, that you never would. Get comfortable. Let's begin. At 1 o'clock in the morning on August 8, 1975, the men standing on top of the Banqiao Dam in central China looked up and saw the stars come out. For days, the rain had not stopped. The worst storm the region had ever recorded had dumped more water on these hills in 24 hours than they normally saw in an entire year. The men had spent the night stacking sandbags in the dark, soaked to the bone, watching the water climb against a dam they had been told was unbreakable. And then, suddenly, the clouds rolled back. The rain stopped. The stars appeared. Someone shouted that the water was retreating. For one moment, they believed they had survived. Then they heard it. A sound, far off in the dark, that one survivor described as the sky collapsing and the earth cracking open. Someone screamed 5 words into the night. The river dragon has come. In the early 1950s, the new communist government under Mao Zedong looked at the Huai River, long known for catastrophic flooding, and decided to tame it. The plan was enormous. A network of dams that would control the floods, generate electricity, and stand as monuments to what the new China could build. The Banqiao Dam, completed in 1952 near the city of Zhumadian, was the centerpiece. Made of clay, reinforced to Soviet specifications, it was considered so strong that people gave it a nickname, the Iron Dam. It was a symbol of national pride, so solid that the idea of it failing seemed almost laughable. The people in the valleys below went to sleep beneath millions of tons of water, held back by a wall they had been told would never break. But not everyone believed it. And one man said so, out loud, at a time when saying so was dangerous. His name was Chen Xing, and he was one of the finest hydrologists in China. Chen had helped design the dam system, and he did not like what he saw. The plans called for too few sluice gates, the openings that let a dam release water when the reservoir rises too high. Chen recommended 12 for Banqiao. He was overruled, and the number was cut to 5. He warned that building this many dams across the basin was dangerous, that the engineering was prioritizing ideology over physics. For this, he was branded a rightist and an opportunist, removed from the project and sent away. In 1961, when problems with the water system surfaced, they brought him back, because they needed his expertise. He gave the same warnings again, and again, he was removed. By 1975, Chen Xing's name had become a quiet shorthand among Chinese engineers for one thing: expertise that had been ignored. The dam that he said did not have enough gates was about to prove him right, in the most catastrophic way imaginable. In early August 1975, a typhoon named Nina slammed into China. Most typhoons weaken and dissipate once they move inland. Nina did not. It stalled directly over Henan Province, hit a cold front, and simply stopped, pouring rain onto the hills above Banqiao with an intensity that broke every record in the region's history. Nearly 18 inches of rain fell in a single day. The reservoir behind the dam rose with terrifying speed. The crew tried to open the sluice gates, the 5 Chen Xing had warned were not enough, and discovered a second nightmare. Years of silt had built up against the dam, choking the gates, strangling their capacity to release water. They could not drain the reservoir fast enough. And then it got worse. Before the communication lines went down, the authorities, worried about flooding downstream and a regional drought, had ordered Banqiao not to open its gates fully. By the time the panicked crew decided to disobey, it was too late. The water was already lapping at the top of the dam. The telegraph lines were cut. They were alone in the dark, with a rising reservoir and no way to call for help. The water reached the crest of the iron dam, and then it went over it. When a dam overtops, the water pouring over the top erodes the structure from the outside until it gives. At 1 o'clock in the morning, after the brief false hope of the clearing skies, Banqiao failed. 600 million cubic meters of water were released in a single surge. A wall of water formed, 6 miles wide, as much as 20 feet high, moving at close to 30 miles per hour. It tore down the valley in the dark, and the people in its path, asleep in their homes, had no warning at all. Entire villages were gone before anyone could run. It ripped up roads, railways, power lines, bridges. It erased communities in seconds. And Banqiao was only the first. As the water surged downstream, it slammed into the next dam, and that one failed too. And then the next. 62 dams across southern Henan collapsed that night in a cascading chain reaction, each failure feeding the next, releasing an unimaginable volume of water across a region home to more than 10 million people. The city of Zhumadian was inundated. An area the size of a small country went underwater in hours. By the time the sun rose, the valley, where hundreds of thousands had been sleeping, was an inland sea, dotted with the rooftops that had not been swept away, and the people clinging to them. More than 10 million people were affected. Millions were stranded on rooftops and high ground, surrounded by floodwater, cut off from the world. Roads were destroyed. Rail links were severed. The relief effort, hampered by the very destruction it was meant to address, was slow and inadequate. The survivors now faced something slower and quieter. In the summer heat, the standing water became contaminated. Disease spread. Famine took hold as food vanished and aid failed to arrive. The drowning had taken tens of thousands in a single night. The aftermath, the disease and starvation and exposure, would take many times more over the following weeks. The numbers are still argued over today, in part because the truth was deliberately buried. China's official figure for the immediate flood deaths is 26,000, but internal estimates told a different story. 8 high-ranking officials, among China's foremost water experts, produced an estimate of 230,000 dead. The most commonly cited range for the full toll, from the flood and everything after, sits between 170,000 and 240,000 human beings. By any measure, it is the deadliest dam failure in the history of the world. And here is the part that should make you angry. For 30 years, almost no one knew. The Chinese government classified the Banqiao disaster as a state secret. In an era of tight media control, the scale of what had happened was simply never reported. Government documents about the failure were kept confidential until 2005. The world only began to understand the true magnitude when a Human Rights Watch report in 1995 cited that figure of 230,000 dead. A disaster that killed as many people as some entire wars, erased from the record, hidden from the country it happened to and the world beyond it. Chen Xing, punished for warning that the dam was unsafe, was brought back once more after the collapse. They needed him again. He spent years rebuilding the same river system whose flaws he had been trying to fix for 2 decades. The flaws everyone had finally been forced to see. The Banqiao Dam was rebuilt in the 1990s and stands today on the same river, holding back the same water. But there is almost no public memorial there, no widely known monument to the 170,000 or more who died in a single week in August 1975. The place where it happened holds its silence, the way the country held it for 30 years. The men on top of the dam saw the stars come out, and for one moment they thought the storm had spared them. It had not. The water that came down the valley that night did not just take tens of thousands of lives. It took the truth with it and buried it for a generation. So this is the memorial they never got. Their names are mostly lost, but the scale of what happened to them does not have to be. Say it. Banqiao. The deadliest dam failure in human history, and one of the best kept secrets of the 20th century. Tell someone the river dragon was real, and that it was made of concrete and clay, and the decision to ignore the man who warned them. Subscribe to Grave Chroniclers. There is always another story the world buried, and we will keep digging them up. Until next time, stay on high ground.